So we're continuing in Parshat Toldot, the Chumash class for chapter 27, Parak Chaf Zion, and we just finished learning a little bit about the brachot. I want to see the contrast between the brachot that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov, who he thinks is Esav, and the bracha that Yitzchak will give to Esav when he knows he's Esav, and those are not the same bracha, and we'll come back to them. So I sort of glossed over them. We learned through them rather quickly, and then there'll be a third bracha, which will be the bracha that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov when he knows that it's Yaakov, right? So the first one is without knowledge, and the second and the third are with knowledge of identity of who he's speaking to. Okay, so Pasuk Lamed, verse 30. Vayhi kasher kila Yitzchak levarech et Yaakov, vayhi ach yatso yatsa Yaakov me'et pnei Yitzchak aviv, ve'esav achiv ba mitzeido. It's not correct for me to translate it this way, but my anachronistic imagination imagines that the door in the home of Yaakov, of Yitzchak and Rivka, the door into where Yitzchak is sitting is a revolving door, and one guy is pushing to leave and the other one's pushing to come in, like the same, or like, you know, like there's two like kitchen doors, one pushes in, the other pushes out, and exactly the same moment, the way it makes it done. In other words, the point here is it's a split second from one to leave and the other to come in. It's not like it was a half an hour later. One left, the other one came in immediately after. Rashbam points this out, that this is for the Nisim. And so I guess there is a little Hanukkah tie-in for this morning. A Nes Nistar. What's a Nes Nistar? Things run on time. That's a hidden miracle. Right? Rashbam says, Lagid Nisim Shanasu Liakov, Bahakatuv. She'ilu Hikdim Esav Lavo Rega Echad Kodem, Lonit Barech Yaakov. Had Esav barged in one instant earlier, there wouldn't have been a bracha for Yaakov. The two brothers maybe would have had a wrestling match in front of their father. Sound familiar? Maybe worse. There would have been a lot of shouting. They missed each other by a second. There is going to be shouting, crying, a cry of anguish and of rage. That's coming. But imagine if Yaakov was standing there, he got out just in time. So right there, like for consideration, what does it mean that sometimes things have an uncanny way of playing out in terms of their timing? Yeah, that too is a nace. The Rashbam wants to see those hidden miracles there as well. And I'll remind you that Rashbam is much more attuned to the world of Pshat, the way we would understand Pshat, even than his grandfather Rashi, who said he was attuned to Pshat and was attuned to Pshat at a certain level. But yeah. Okay, so as he leaves and the other one arrives, Vayas gamhu matamim vayavela aviv. He also has to make the food. He brings it to his father. V'yomer la'aviv yakum aviv v'yochal mitzeid beno ba'avur tivarachani nafshecha. My father should stand up, or should sit up rather, but get up really, and he should eat from the hunt of his son, so that you will bless your soul will bless me. Right there, a study in contrasts. If you go back to how Yaakov spoke to his father, pretending he was Esav, there seems to be a lot more directness in Esav's address of his father. Note that there's, I would even call it a certain coarseness. It opens with the verb. Look back when Yaakov comes in to see Yitzchak. He comes in and he calls his father's name. Pasuk verse 18. Pasuk Yud Chet. Vayavo el aviv vayomer avi vayomer hineni mi ata b'ni. Okay? He calls his father's name first. It's a greeting. Right? Then the response: I am Esav, your firstborn. I did what you had spoken to me. Please sit. Kumna shiva. V'uchla mitzedi, and eat from my hunt. Bavur tvarchani nafshecha. Esav, yakum avi v'yochal. He did not say hello. Didn't call his father's name. Just my father shall get up and shall eat. Right? There's no kumna shiva. Kumna shiva, please get up and sit. Get up, eat. Just on the level of pshat. And if Yitzchak's antennae were up when Yaakov came in, how could this really be Esav? Here, he seems, obviously this is now, we just did this. Why are you asking me again to get up and eat for a bracha? Vayomer lo Yitzchak aviv, mi ata, vayomer ani bincha b'chorcha Esav. And this person was telling the truth, that he is his firstborn son. Yeah, please, Tamar. Hi, good morning. Happy Hanukkah.
Hi, good morning to you. Hanukkah Sameach. I ask myself, which is worse, directness or perhaps coarseness, or deception and stealing?
Listen, we had a lot of classes on this previously. You will recall we talked extensively about the fact that that there are complications there from a moral perspective. And obviously, Yitzchak still wanted to give a bracha to Esav.
Yeah.
But the point I'm just saying, there's a certain hint in the Torah itself to a certain way of being that Esav exuded, a certain aura about him. That was one of the reasons why Yitzchak's antennae were up, because this was not the natural way that his son would speak. It's on Esav, more Yaakov-like. So I'm just on that point. I'm just saying when Esav comes in, the phraseology in contradistinction to how it appears in the Torah when Yaakov's pretend to be Esav tells us these are, even from the language, if you line the two up and, sort of draw the line, which one is Yaakov, which one is Esav. It was a blind test, if you will, you probably would also be able to draw the lines in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? So that's the idea. Anyway, okay, Shelly, go ahead. Good morning. Happy Hanukkah. Shelly, I don't hear you.
Happy Hanukkah. Okay, but let's do it your way. Then you have the problem of Peshat, of why Yitzchak prefers Esav. If Esav is really this horrible, coarse person, and Yitzchak even senses it like this, then why does it say he loved Esav?
He brought the hunt to his mouth. It says so.
Whatsoever.
Right. So on the level of Pshat, as we've discussed already a few times, on the level of Pshat, I think it's much more challenging to figure out, based on what we know in the story, that Esav is this incredibly wicked, terrible, horrible person. On the level of Pshat, purely, it's not clear. It's not. What is clear is that Yitzchak loves Esav because the hunt is in his mouth, which means he brings home the food. Does it mean he loved him more? No. It means Yitzchak truly appreciated the contribution that Esav made to the family. To put in our parlance of today, he was a real family man because he brought home the food. That's all.
We could also understand that Yitzchak loved Esav because Esav was attentive to him in a way that Yaakov
perhaps was not, right, in bringing the food and bringing the hunt, right. I mean, for sure. Now, even on the level of Pshat, though, Shelley, the fact is that this is the second example of an Esav who speaks in a certain way that is either a staccato, very quick. We saw with the soup, Nechama Leibowitz, a great teacher of Torah, she points out there are like 5 verses, one after the other, involving how Esav eats the food. It's like it's very, very quick. Everything's fast. Give me from that. Everything is very, and we don't have to go into them without even making recourse to midrashim yet. Just on the level of Pshat, I'm not saying he's evil because he's a coarser individual. His father saw he's more of a product man. When it gets down to business, he wants to know the bottom line. He wants to get in and out. I saw Karen just wrote in about he's a blue collar kind of guy. Maybe you could say that. Is that so wrong? Is that terrible? That's a Russia? That's a wicked person? No. That's how he is. I'm just showing the contrast between the people. Now, when we learn Torah, we don't only learn at a level of Pshat. The Pshat is the baseline of our main understanding of the words themselves. We also want to understand that there are midrashim that connect, and without going down that rabbit hole again, because we discussed it already many, many times. I think in previous years, it was every translation is an interpretation. Now, I don't have a one-liner for it, but it's the same idea. I don't want to keep unpacking the machinery of it. Midrashim are true. They are true, just like pshat is true. But the word true doesn't always mean historically true. And some midrashim are historically true, and they are for some reason not written in the Torah, which that's what the Mefarshim are figuring out. Some midrashim are the creative, an interpretive impulse of Chazal by the license granted to them by the Torah itself. And we don't know which is in which category, which is in which basket or bucket, and it doesn't matter. Midrashim are true. They're part of Torah Shebaal Peh. So part of the given in the problem, not on the level of pshat, on the level of medrash. Esav is engaged in all sorts of wicked things, and that Tzai B'Fiv means that he was a deceptive person and he was doing terrible things to this one and to that one. Fine, but I'm just saying today I just stayed on the level of pshat, and Rashbam is very into pshat. So the fact that one left and one came in, says the Rashbam, on the level of pshat, that's telling you there's a nace going on, and the fact that Esav is described as coming in, Dad, get up and eat. My dad will get up. Well, it's really backwards the other way. Get up, Dad, and eat. From the hunt of your son, so you could give me a blessing, as opposed to how Yaakov spoke. It's just a different in tenor, in tone. Phil, you're waiting. Please go ahead. Just unmute because I don't hear you. Happy Hanukkah. Hello.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So, why does Esav want Yaakov's blessing?
He wants his blessing?
But what? But Yaakov, when you think about it, Yaakov on his own, I would think, does not have the ability to give you great riches, to grant you great riches. It's Yaakov's connection with Hashem. I mean, it's Yitzchak's connection with Hashem.
Yeah,
that gives him the ability to bless. And
right.
Esav doesn't really believe in Hashem.
On the level of Medrash, yeah. On the level of Midrashim, correct. On the level of Midrashim, Esav is saying there's no God and there's no judge. You ever hear the expression, we should pray for so-and-so? Can't hurt. Can't hurt. Maybe he doesn't believe, but it can't hurt. Also, don't discount. Again, I'm sticking with the level of Medrash over here. With again, when we learn the desire to atomize in either directions, for me, exactly what I'm trying to butt up against, keep buck up against, I should say, which is learning Chumash is to learn it on the multiple levels, to understand a level of pshat, and then to understand there's a midrashic level, which is no less true, but the word true may express itself in a different way. Yeah, don't discount the reality that these are two brothers who are in competition, like Cain and Abel were in competition, Yaakov and Esav competition. Right, Yitzchak Ishmael competition. I forgot that, but there's a competition. Esav could care less about a bechor. He's selling off the firstborn. Did it work? Did it not work? He sold it. He didn't sell it. Was he rooked by Yaakov? Was he this, that? Was he fooled? Or did he just give it up because he could care less about eternity and about values and about Torah and about Olam Haba and blah, blah, blah. They're all different views on the subject. Something happened there, and now years later, decades later, again, based on the world of Medrash, they're about 15. They're 15 years old when that story with the soup happens. They're teenagers, two teenagers. Hey, I bet you $1 million, that so-and-so's going to win the World Cup. Bet you $1 million. Then the other team wins. So now the two men are in the 60s, the 63. So one guy calls the other guy up and he says, you're about to get a ring at your doorbell. There's a bailiff coming to deliver a lawsuit. You owe me $1 million. What? Yeah, from when we were 15. Really? So, but there's like a competition going on over here. Who's getting the bracha? It is about, on a certain level, who gets their father's affection, who carries the mantle. Now, as it turns out, and that's part of the tragedy of the whole story, neither Yaakov dressed up as Esav nor Esav when he got the bracha. Right now, we're going to see, got the bracha of Avram Avinu. It's only Yaakov gets the bracha of Avram Avinu, which means he's carrying the baton forward. And when is that? At the end of the parsha, when everybody knows who everybody is. The masks have come off. So it turned out like this whole back and forth with Rivka, in a certain level, it was all for naught. Didn't have to happen. It just redoubles the sense of tragedy in it, which later writers, Lahavdal Fe Avdalot, in world literature, certainly Western literature, who were very influenced by the Bible back in the day when people read such things. Their version of a Bible, not the Torah, but their version of a Bible. But there are similar stories, very similar stories, though they are all beginning in translation, and therefore they're all with a certain interpretation that makes them, by our lights, we were much more ambivalent about them, to put it charitably, maybe even suspicious. But many writers will take heed that the tragedy is brought about by the actual protagonists. They bring it upon themselves. This makes it a tragedy. Yeah. Or the idea of families, people not communicating with each other, missed signals. I'm thinking of some very important medieval writers in English literature. It's all about missed signals and about the drive for power and about, right? And there are a lot of antecedents in the Torah. There's a baseline for Western canon, which, if I could go on a soapbox for half a minute, part of the problem, and it is a big problem, with the moment we find ourselves in, and that's what Rabbi Sachs, Zichron Livrach, is writing the book Morality, is that suddenly much of the quote unquote Western canon, which includes but is not limited to the Bible, the overturning of that, the moving away from having that as a common language of any kind, even with all the conflicts it's still brought about, is itself very problematic for the continuation of Western civilization, because anything unifying works and books, he doesn't say only the Bible, even within the Western canon, various types of works that are now been, shunted aside, that traditionally, since they were written for hundreds of years, there was some kind of commonality. That's in many instances being thrown out the window. So, okay. Anyway, Phil, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a long way of answering. I'm sorry. So, okay. So now, when Yitzchak is asked, who are you? And he answers, Yitzchak's the first one to come to the recognition something untoward has happened. Vayecharad Yitzchak charada gdola ad me'od, vayomer mi'efo hu hatzad tzayid, veli va'ochal mikol b'terem tavo va'avrachehu, gam baruch yiyeh. It's a very strange reaction by Yitzchak Avinu. First of all, he's very much afraid. The word of charada is fear, the sense of trembling. The charedim are tremblings. That's where it comes from. Vayecharad, v'charedim dvar Hashem. And just considering that he's afraid, what is that? Is that fear a fear of realizing everything that's transpired? According to Radak, it's a fear that Esav will think Esav, Yitzchak is afraid that Esav will conclude that somehow Yitzchak colluded with Yaakov to give him the bracha. And this was all to mock Esav and to say, haha, you missed it. And therefore, mi efo is, according to Radak at least, who is this person and where is this person? Who did it? Who came in? Who brought the food? And I ate from what they brought before you came. Had I not eaten, right? If you came in the middle of the meal, so I would have not given him the bracha. I would have taken your food, eaten your food, and given you the bracha. But I ate from that individual, whoever it was, and I gave that person a bracha while I was satiated from the food. Immediately after I was satiated, tovi shalibi be'od shalibi tov, while my heart was good, meaning I was in a good place, in a good feeling, whatever it is. And the strangest part of this is gam baruch yiyeh. Now that I gave him the bracha, I'm not going to rescind it. I'm going to say he should also be blessed, which makes it sound like he's going to say, well, then you don't worry, Esav, I have a lot of brachas left where that came from, which is strange because we'll find out, momentarily that Esav is going to ask for a bracha, and his father's going to say, well, I don't have, did you save me a bracha? We're going to get to it in a minute. Tamar, go ahead, please.
I just want to say that I'm so struck by the language. Vayecharad Yitzchak charada gdola. The Torah doesn't, the Chumash doesn't usually add extra words. It's very, very compact, and here it wasn't only that he trembled, but it was a great trembling, charadah gedola, and not just a great trembling, ad me'od. It's an emphasis. The degree of anguish is so dramatically portrayed
Yes.
here.
Yes. 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 Nothing else to say. I mean, the Torah is emphasizing the shock, the upset, right? Of course, for Rashi, he's taking it from the Midrashim. But for Rashi, the idea here is, the great surprise that he had. He takes is based on Unkelus. It's a lashon tema. He didn't. What is this? He's trying to understand it. And then Rashi quotes a medrash, and the medrash is from the medrash Tanchuma that Ra'ag Gehinom Petuchami Tachtav. He saw Gehenim opened up underneath Esav, and therefore he had a charada gedola. In other words, you could just say, well, I don't like the medrash here. I'm going to take the pshat. That's fine. The pshat is it's not a trembling of fear. It's a trembling of surprise. According to Rashi, that's one interpretation, which he takes from Unkelus, by the way. So it's not like he just made it up out of whole cloth. He has always based on a basis. There's some kind of surprise here. Utiva Yitzchak, Tivha Rabbah, Adlachta. He doesn't, wow, what? He's really shocked. Alternatively, on the level of Medrash, playing with the same idea that, Esav is truly wicked. When Yaakov comes in, you have the aroma of Gan Eden, the Sadeh, Asher Berecho Hashem. Rashi had said, that's the Reach of Gan Eden. So now this is the Reach of Gehenna. That now was the moment when Yitzchak calculated in one fell swoop, oh my goodness, that's why the previous son, who I thought was so righteous, because that's Yaakov. And now when this one comes in, his presence gives me a great trembling because he is associated with all things evil and wicked. And only now do I get the point.
Rabbi
That's the
Engel,
Midrashic level. Yeah.
Mefarshim were human beings. And
They
when
are.
the way I've always understood it, and that's my own particular understanding, is that when faced with such injustice, it gave them such pain that they had to find instinctively, to interpret the words in the opposite way from what they read. Perhaps not even knowing it. It was an instinct. It was a reflex. Because they were human beings, they were hurt and pained by the injustice. That's how I've always understood it.
I understand. Okay. And I think there are Mefarshim that do go in that direction. There certainly are. But other Mefarshim, again, Rashi quoting it from the Medrash, Tanchuma, right? By the time we get to the point in history of the Medrash Tanchuma, Yaakov is the Jewish people, Esav is Rome. And there's some kind of a struggle, and not just Rome, but it's already a nascent new daughter religion based on or piggybacking on the power of Rome, and the idea of showing that there are harbingers to that already in the early stories, helps us better understand our station. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying they made it up, but the point is they sort of mining it because what doesn't make sense is if Yitzchak is so surprised. And the charada is a fear in the sense of upset, consternation, and the like. What does Gam Baruch Yeh mean at the end of this sentence? Right? Rashi points out here, Gam Baruch Yeh Shlo Tomar. Don't say. It's quoting the Medrash. Ilui Sherima Yaakov leAviv lo natal berachot lekach hiskimu berachami dato. Don't say that if not for Yaakov's, and here Rashi quoting from the Medrash, Yaakov's deception of his father. Rashi's quoting in the Medrash saying that it's a deception. Same Rashi who a few psukim earlier said, when Yaakov said, I am Esav, your firstborn, what he really meant to say is, I am, comma, and Esav is your firstborn, right? Where I think some of us, whether our screens are on or not, we're struggling not to roll our eyes at the parsing of the words and the forced interpretation. But here Rashi himself is saying, quoting from the Medrash, same Midrashim, by the way, Yitzchak now knows. He's Gam Baruch Yeh says, this is shocking. This is terrible. But don't think I didn't mean the bracha that I gave him. You know what? He deserved. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. If that's how it played out, it was meant to be. And now Bashert. So Hashem wanted it to happen. I didn't find out earlier. And now we have the reaction. Kishmo Esav divrei Aviv vayitzak tzeaka gedola umara ad meod a great scream, the blood curdling cry. It's great and it's bitter, very bitter. Vayomer la'aviv, barcheni gam ani avi. Don't you know, give me a bracha also, my father. One more sentence, and I'll go to Karen's point to question the comment. This, according to the Medrash, is a reference to when Mordechai in the book of Esther will cry a great cry when he hears a terrible news. The Medrash there says that's to remind us of the great cry that the progenitor of the Jewish people, Yaakov Avinu, caused for Esav. Now Esav's grandson is Amalek, and the descendant of Amalek is Haman, and Haman is getting back at the Jewish people. Like things come full circle. It's the point is, midah keneged midah, that somehow the wrong person gets to sit with the king. How could this be happening? Well, it's a payback of the wrong person sitting with, when you went in. Okay, Karen, go ahead, and then we'll see if anyone else has any questions, comments. Karen, go, please.
I think Shoshi was waiting. Do you want Shoshi?
I didn't see your hand. Sorry,
okay.
Shoshi.
I'm waiting. That's okay.
Hi, go ahead, Shoshi, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I wanted to just say that I think everybody needs validation, and that's why Esav wanted the bracha. Not because he believes in God and anything else, but he needs from his father validation.
Good.
And for his children and his sense of being. That's number one. But the other thing I'm confused about is why, Yitzchak, I think there's a lack of sensitivity. Like, okay, his son stole the bracha. Instead of saying, oh my God, your brother stole your bracha. Oh my God. Instead of saying that, saying, oh, well, honey, I have a bracha for you. Thank you so much. I'm going to eat a second meal. Okay, let's not make a big deal out of all of this and move forward. He doesn't do that.
Interesting. So what do you make of it? Why do you say Gam Baruch Yeh?
I think some people are just too honest and don't know how to be political.
Could be.
But it's very painful. And that's not.
I mean, your point is about to be sharpened even more when we see the next psukim. Esav's asking for a bracha.
Mhm.
And instead of Yitzchak saying, sure, no problem, doesn't come right away. We'll see it in a minute. Okay, wait, Karen, you had a question or comment.
I all along have been saying that I view this whole episode as four people that are all not being truthful. They're all wearing masks. They're all somehow pretending to be things that they're not. And I have always wondered whether Yitzhak's blindness goes beyond physical blindness. I think he turned that who can't recognize your own child when they're 30 years old? I mean, by then you really do know the voice. You can tell an animal's skin from someone's hand. So I think he's been called on his part on it now. When Esau came in and was obviously upset, Yitzhak, now it's all coming home to roost on all of these characters.
Do you think, to Shoshi's point from before, do you think now Yitzchak gets it? Because he realized, oh my goodness, this is a disaster.
I think they thought they could all have their cake and eat it too, except for Esau, who went out and brought some meat back and found that the whole family dynamic had changed in his absence.
Right.
I don't know. As I say, I just can't understand how somebody can recognize their child.
Okay. I hear
Rabbi, can I also?
Hi, Helen. Good morning. Sure. Go ahead, please.
Okay. There's a basic principle, lifnei iver lo sitein michshol. So that's one point.
Yeah.
And in another point, Yitzchak is saying to himself, Malei mishalo seno latova. I had originally planned otherwise, but in looking back, this had to be turned out this way, because many times in life, we don't understand things, how they play out. And much later on in life, we understand that it had to be this way. And so Yitzchak is understanding that this mistake is a basher thing. So that's what I have
Thank
to
you. Well,
say.
that's what I was saying. Gam Baruch Yeh is bashert. Yeah, like it's what it is, you know.
Rabbi, you have to watch out for the Bashert and that this is the way it's supposed to be, because it sounds too much like an oracle at Delphi, which is what we got at the beginning of this story. I happen to think that Shoshi's thing is really speaks to me, but you know, this is, you got to watch out for the oracle at Delphi.
The Oracle Delphi problem. I hear it. The Bashert part is he was in a certain way. He says, I'm out of moves. I'll tell you, like the Ramban says, Gam Baruch Yeh means even against my will, I can't say anything now that I gave this bracha. I can't remove the bracha that I gave. As soon as he gave it, according to the Ramban, quoting from what we think is probably from the Zohar in Parsha Toldot, at least that's a parallel source. I don't know if the Ramban had access to the Zohar itself. He certainly had certain access to Kabbalistic sources. This is that Yitzchak felt in Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, that the bracha started. He gave it to him. And that's why he has this great trembling, because he realized that his beloved son, Avad with an aleph, Avad beno ha'ahuv lo birchato le'olam, that Esav had lost his bracha forever. It was like too late. Too late? But that's why he says to him in the next pasuk, they say, look at verse 35, Vayomer ba'achicha b'mirma vayikach birchatecha. Your brother came to Mirma. In English, the word Mirma, best translation I come up with deceit, with duplicity. What does Rashi say Mirma is translated as? Right? Based on Onkelos. He didn't make it up. You could see it in Onkelos, verse 35. Va'amar al achuch b'chochma. Rashi writes, chochma. Mirma means chochma. One person's duplicity is another person's guile, and using these smarts. Now, what did Yitzchak actually think? I'm telling you what Rashi said. I'm telling you what Onkelos said. I'm not telling you have to agree whole lock, stock, and barrel. I just finished telling you my translation of the word mirma. Your translation probably in your Chumash, unless it's the article Chumash, probably doesn't go with Rashi and says deceit, right? So do you see the what Tamar said earlier? It's like there's I'm just putting words in your mouth, Tamar, but cognitive dissonance, like the instinctive. No, but it couldn't be. One Rashi after Rashi said, he said, Ilule Sherima Yaakov Aviv. If not, don't say that if not for the Rima, means the deceit that Yaakov perpetrated on his father, don't say that he wouldn't have gotten the brachas. Gam Baruch Yeh, he deserved it, he got it anyway. And then the next Rashi, what's B'mirma? B'mirma means B'chachma, because that's what Onkelos said. It's almost like Rashi himself is wrestling with like, okay, what is this? How do we deal with it? How do we put it together? But that just doubles down, and part of it's the Bashert component, and part of it is, let's not say it's Bashert, let's say this is something of their own making.
As far as Gam Baruch Yeh, in my mind, that sounds very much like Baruch Dayan Emet.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when you say Baruch Dayan Emet, it's not that you're not grieving, it's not that you're not sunk in despair, but you accept that this is God's will.
Rabbi, a couple of weeks ago, when the story of Esav and meeting up with Yaakov again and what Yaakov does, Rabbi Sachs basically says that in that meeting, with all the stuff that Yaakov did, he's giving back the bracha to Esav. He's bowing down to him, which shows that I'm going to serve you. He's giving him back all these gifts, all this money stuff. And Rabbi Sachs seems to feel that it's what he had to do for his own character, that he was wrong in it to take it to begin with, what he did, and that in order for him to become the person that he's supposed to be of the Abrahamic covenant, he has to give it back, that this is not his any more than the Abrahamic covenant was Esav's. So,
Thank you for mentioning it. Yeah. On the Shabbos shir in that parsha, I think Phil was there. This was part of our conversation. Titain emet liYaakov, as the prophet Micha says, give truth to Yaakov, means that there is a process of perfecting himself, of coming to excellence. I think that's what we were seeing also a few weeks ago on this year when we saw that was the Rav Samson Fall Hirsch, right? Remember but yeah, already back from Parshat Lech Lecha, but I quoted
Right.
it just like a couple weeks ago. So exactly, it's the same dynamic. These things play out, right? I thought you were going to say actually from our Parsha now, this past week, look at all the duplicity played on Yaakov by his own children. By his children? A child would deceive their father? And would give them some object which happens to have come from a goat. And say, do you recognize this? This is on the level of pshat. I don't have to make recourse to midrashim and gemaras, and I could, but just even I just want to take it on the surface level. I already, look at that. There's a pattern that's playing out. In our world, we call this, we see it, the dynamic, in a way that we can sort of draw lines between the dots in the Torah itself, a midah keneged midah. It's much more complicated to do it in our own lives and very easy to do it in other people's lives. We have to be very careful not to do that in either case, certainly not in other people's lives. But when we're looking at the Torah, so Hashem gave us the document, and the document tells us the stories, and yeah, it's lining up. Yeah, of course. And then the 22 years that they're separated from each other, what do all the Mefarshim explain? That's the 22 years that Yaakov was not home taking care of his father. Why did Yaakov have to leave home and not be with his father? Because of things that Yaakov himself did. And therefore, he's punished 22 years to be without his son. Okay, the parallels are all, they're there. Someone whose name is iPad has their hand up, and I can't acknowledge you by name, but iPad, go ahead. Just unmute because I can't hear you. Hello?
Hi, Rabbi. It's me. It's a new iPad, and I haven't had time to.
Oh, okay. Hi. Okay, I just said.
Debbie.
Okay.
Yeah. I've stayed quiet in the whole conversation, but I feel I have to bring this up.
Please do.
That when we're talking about Yitzhak and Yaakov and Esav, we're not talking about just two sons. We're talking about twin sons. And being blessed as a grandmother with two twins, one whose name happens to be Yaakov also, I have been, since the day they were born, and only my friends who also have twins as children or grandchildren, it's a totally different dynamic. And I feel like I always do, that there's a message here for us that Hashem, like I always feel when I'm studying, the important message here is that as hard as it is to treat all your children equally when they're separate siblings, there's a whole series of other things that occur when they're twins. And as I watch Yitzhak, trying to navigate this, I'm reminded of this a great deal. And I think, like I always do when I'm studying, I have to bring it up so that people who don't have twins at least can hear my voice on the subject and your thoughts, of course, because there is an element here based on the fact that they are twin sons, not just sons.
Not just brothers. So it's not the sibling piece, but Dafka, the twins piece. Thank you. That's an excellent point. And to my point from before about the dynamic playing out, but you just sharpened the point in terms of it's even closer than regular siblings. And whatever the rivalries may be, it's even more.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent, absolutely excellent, for sure, for sure. I think, by the way, when you read it, it's on the level of pshat. I don't know about you, but I at the moment when I read this, there is for a moment I have a tinge of sympathy for Esav that things didn't work out. And as Shelley was pointing out, also quoted from Rabbi Sachs, there is a reckoning. There is a reckoning, and the reckoning is about Yaakov making penance or trying to fix it. And by the way, and then he'll make this reference in the middle of talking to Esav when he meets him in Parshat Vayishlach. What does he say? When I see your face, like seeing the face of an angel. So there's something there. Just a couple more psukim. Vayomer ba achicha b'mirma vayikach birchatecha. Your brother came to Mirma. We saw that he took your blessing. And to I think Shoshi's point, like from before, does Yitzchak really understand what he's saying when he says to his brother, "Oh, your brother took your blessing"? He was stating a fact. And according to Ramban, it's too late. It's done. It's lost. He got that bracha. I can't give it to you. Okay, that's Ramban's position, but basing himself also on earlier sources. But we're still left wondering, like, what does it mean? He took your bracha. So Vayomer answered Esav, Hachi kara shemo Yaakov, v'yakveni zeh fa'amayim, et bechorati lakach, v'inei ata lakach birchati, vayomar halo atzalta li bracha. The same individual spoke with two statements. And we have to ask right away, structurally, methodologically, why is it Vayomer and then Vayomar in the same pasuk? It's the same speaker. Esav says, that's why his name is Yaakov. Okay? Vayakvein zepamayim, Yaakov is something that is me'ukav, means something that is roundabout. Ibn Ezra translates the word Yaakov, Vayakveini, is just like the word mirma, which, by the way, verse 35, b'mirma, where I told you just to get everyone riled up, Rashi says it's b'chochma. Karen had written in Art Scroll, going right down the line with Rashi, cleverness, right? But you and I would have translated b'mirma is duplicity, deceitfulness, something that is not straight, something that is disingenuous. Verse 35, b'mirma, Ibn Ezra translates, shelo diber emet. It's another way of saying he lied. Now, Ibn Ezra sees, what is Esav's interpretation? Vayakveni zeh pa'amayim. He was like an Akev to me. They call him Yaakov. You know why his name is Yaakov? I'll tell you what your name is, Yaakov. Your name is a person who is hindering others, grabbing their ankle, but also Vayakveni. Here, the word Yakve doesn't mean the ankle part. It's something that is akov, vaya akov lemishor, that which is not straight, which is tortuous, will become straight. That's the Navi describes the Messianic era. What is going on here? And here I want to put a point on something that I said before, just to highlight it, and we're running out of time here, which is this. I said that these guys are 15 when the sale of the birthright happens, and now they're in their 60s. I'm like, why are they still playing that out? But did you notice who brought up the issue of the Bechorah? It's not Yaakov. It's not Yitzchak. It wasn't even Rivka. Esav, in all these years, is still harboring this upset about feeling that he was given a raw deal, but he acknowledges, by the by, that there was a transfer of the Bechorah. He doesn't say it wasn't binding. He did something, he took it from me in some untoward manner. And by the way, now he took my blessing. And then he said a second statement, didn't you save a bracha for me? So the question is, and I want you to just think about this. I'll take Karen as a point to make, I think. And I think that Debbie's hand is still up. I'm not sure. So if it's still not still up, just put it down.
No.
Okay, so wait. Okay, so it's hand up, but we'll give me 1 second. And Karen comes to you in a second. Note that in Pasuk Lamed Vav, the fact there's two statements makes us wonder if both of these statements were spoken out loud to Yitzchak, or if only one of them was the second one. And maybe the first one is, this is the mind of Esav saying, oh, this is why they call him what they call him. When he knows full well that the reason why he was called Yaakov is because his hand was holding on to Esav's ankle. But in Esav's world, the name Yaakov means he's a trickster, right? Which, by the by, going back to Shelley's point from before, based on Rabbi Sachs, that there's going to be a reckoning. What happens the night before? The reckoning in person is the reckoning on the level of the spiritual and the dreamscape and the whatever it is there. Maybe it's a dreamscape, maybe not. Yaakov is wrestling with an angel who changes his name. Yeah. Okay, Karen, go ahead, please. We're out of time here. So
I know we're just about out of time, so save this for next time. But I am just caught on these words. He took away my birthright. He took away my blessing.
Yeah.
The idea that he, first of all, it wasn't Yaakov. Esau gave the birthright, and it's Yitzhak who gave the blessing. So it comes to like, who's really
Right.
at blame here. So
Right.
hopefully we'll come back and talk
We
more.
will
about
come
those
back to it.
issues.
I'll say what you just said in one word because it's correct. Victim.
Yeah,
My brother took, and my brother took. There were no other actors. I was not responsible for my actions. I wasn't involved. I didn't do anything in the first case. And in the second case, it's not you, Abba. It's my brother. It's not my mother. It's you. There's a victim culture sort of that's coming on. It's coming into play here, which we'll see plays out also in Vayishlach, but we're out of time for today. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. We are not learning on Thursday. I'll be away on Thursday. We are not learning next Monday. I'll be away, but I'll be back, God willing. We'll be back together the following. Oh, wait, we won't do this Thursday or next Thursday. I'm sorry. The next 2 Thursdays we're off. Pardon me. The next 2 Thursdays we're off, and next Monday we're off. So we'll resume in 2 Mondays from now, God willing, and then the following Thursday. Okay. See you all
a great
soon.
trip.